Hello and welcome back to Seaside Garage and a Volvo. And just to make it clear straight away, no, this is not my Volvo, unfortunately, because it's really nice. This belongs to a very good friend of mine, and I got the chance to drive it for a few days because I need to do some work on it. And to be honest, I was really happy to be asked to do that, because if you have been a long time viewer of the channel, you will know that Volvos are something that I like a lot. This is the third Volvo on the channel. I had my own 240 estate a while back, and I also did an engine swap on a 242 also quite a lot of years ago now. And I miss them. I really miss Volvos because they are really nice cars. Oh. I am daily driving a Citroën CX at the moment, and I just have to get used to driving a Volvo because it's very different. A Volvo is a really comfortable car, but nothing compares to the CX. So bumps and stuff like that, I just have to get used to that. But yeah, I will just have to take it a little bit slower, then it's just fine. This is a 1979 Volvo 242. As mentioned, it belongs to a very good friend of mine who not only got a great taste in cars, but also in YouTube. He saved this car after some minor damage that he fixed up, and he has been driving it as a classic car for the past few years. But he just bought another project, so I think he will have to let this one go because of lack of space. He just bought a 106 Rally. I don't think you can find anything much more different than this Volvo than a 106 Rally, but maybe that tells you that his taste in cars is pretty similar to mine, because yeah, I had Volvo 240s, I also had a 106 Rally, and it's just when you are a car enthusiast and like old cars, it's just a matter of trying as much as possible, as fast as possible before it's too late. Sitting in a 240 is really a nice place to be. It's so spacious. It's not even a very big car comparing it to modern day cars, but the space inside of it is really nice. And the seats, it's not sporty seats, as you can see, it's not bucket seats. But even if you do take a very sharp turn and tumble over, there will still be room for you there, because it's very wide. As you can see, there's a lot of space. This one is a 2.1 carb engine. Of course, it's from 79, and it's an automatic. A 3-speed Borg-Warner, I think it is. Shifts very smoothly. And Volvos are known to just go on forever and forever. And I think my Volvo had, I can't remember if it was 400 or 500,000 kilometers on the clock, but take a look at this. This is just amazing to see a Volvo with this few miles on it. I almost can't believe it. The interior is really robust, and to be honest, I don't think it will look any different if it had 500,000 kilometers on the clock. It's very robust. Everything is very simple, and as you can see, this is not filled with extras. There is a lot of room for buttons, but we only have 2 pressable buttons. The rear demister that I have just used, and the hazard, and then fasten seat belt. So if I put it in ignition and doesn't fasten my seat belt, it will just be very mad at you. Then you have a pretty complicated, for its time, heater system. I think you can get cold air from one vent and hot from the other, so that's pretty awesome. Very old school Volvo radio down there. A Baco petrol heater right there. And then this button down there is something he did to it. This is a remote latch system for the rear boot, because otherwise you will have to use the key each and every time you pop the boot, which is pretty nice. What I find amazing about a Volvo like this is that this is from 79, and to be honest, I would be just as safe, or feeling just as safe from a reliability point of view, driving this to south of France than any new car that I can imagine. I wouldn't for a second doubt it. Of course, they can be worn out and they can break down like everything else, but they are just so solidly built that the confidence that you will get in a car like this is off the scale. And I'm not just saying that because I'm driving a Citroën CX daily that I'm always a little bit terrified of. but these are so nicely built. And it's from 79. I can follow in traffic just fine. The brakes feel just fine. The overall feel inside the car is, it's just fine. It's comfortable. It's really comfortable. The only thing that lets it down is maybe the fuel consumption. But other than that, it would be just as good as any other car, as a daily car, to be honest. Of course, you don't get Apple Free Play or whatever it's called, but it would work just as well. And driving this really makes me miss having a Volvo in my life, but also reminds me why I don't have one, because I love to be in the garage wrenching and fixing stuff. And a Volvo like this, in this condition, is just not something that you need to wrench a lot on, because there's not a lot of stuff broken and it won't break down very often. So for me, it's not the ideal classic daily, because I like the challenge of keeping stuff running, and the challenge is, simply put, just too small in a car like this, because it's just that good. If I ever needed a classic car to drive a lot of kilometers each and every day, and money were no issue, fuel consumption, or if I had to go on a very long road trip where the breaking down wasn't a part of the journey, I would choose a Volvo any day, that's for sure. It's a cliche calling these Swedish tanks, but it's not completely wrong. They do rust like every other cars from that era. There is just a bit more metal to rust before it becomes critical. But yeah, the engines are pretty much bulletproof. They are really reliable, really strong units. It's not a fast car, not at all, but it gets you there, and it's a nice cruiser. The reason why this car is in my hands at the moment is I was allowed to take it for a test drive, which is nice, but it's also, we have a feeling that something is wrong with the engine. I'm just talking about reliability, but it's still driving just fine. It starts up on the button. There's no issues, but it's currently returning around 6 to 8 kilometers on a liter of fuel. I will write that in MPGs because I don't do it in that kind of way, but I think it's a bit too low. I would expect 8 to 10 kilometers at least from this one. I could be wrong though, but my 2.3 engine 240 estate, also with an automatic, actually gave me 10 to 11 kilometers on a liter. This engine is slightly smaller. The car is also older, but I don't think they are much different. They are both carbureted cars, and I think something is wrong with this one, or something is off with this one. It could be a vacuum leak, it could be ignition timing related, it could be a carburetor issue out of adjustment or something like that. But one thing that struck me when I drove this home yesterday is that when I floor it, something happens, a lot of suction noise, which is a little bit weird in my opinion. It could be, I don't know, it could be a vacuum leak or something like that. It's very audible, but it could also be a hole in the firewall area or a lack of sealing or something like that. But what strikes me is that it lacks a little bit of grunt, I think. And that being said, it is a slow car. It got just around 100 horsepower, but I was expecting it to pull a little bit stronger. It's like some of the torque is gone. So what I'm going to do in the next video on this car is to put it onto my sun tester, and hopefully figure something out. That being said, it could also just be how this car is. It is still getting a better fuel consumption than my Citroën CX, so if I were to get a Volvo again, one of these 240s at least, I would really like a 480 turbo, but that's another talk. But if I were to get a 240 again, I would like an estate again, because the estate is just so usable and so in so many ways, because it is so big. It still drives just like this one. There's room for so much stuff. I can even sleep in one of those with the rear hatch closed and all. The one that I had before was a van, so there were no seatings back in the back of it. It's just so versatile. I had an entire kitchen on the roof at one point. It's an amazing car for so much stuff. And if you, like me, like to drive classic cars that are usable as dailies, one of those are just excellent. I've always had a bit of a hard time with sedan versions like this one because you can't really use the bigness of the car because you cannot put long stuff in it. But that being said, this is more smart than the other Volvo that I had on the channel, the 2-door sedan. This one at least got 4 doors, and the boot is massive. This car is perfect for I think you can fit a washing machine back there. It's the perfect car for hauling a dead body into the forest, or to go shopping big time, or I think you could put a Velo Solex back in the trunk without issues. It's a pretty big trunk. Another thing, I'm really getting envious about the heating system in this car, comparing it to my daily, the CX. The CX is a lot better than it was after I fixed some stuff on the heating system. But this one, I'm actually struggling to keep it cool in here at the moment without opening the windows. It's really effective. I have compared the Volvo 240s to Mercedes 123 before, because I think they are very similar. It just feels like the Volvo did it a bit more clunky, but it's the same kind of setup, the same hinges on the bonnet and stuff like that. But the feel of the Volvo 240 is a bit more agricultural in a very cool way. For instance, the rear demister button right here, it feels like some kind of fuse on an old fuse board or something like that. It's really dang, and you'll just know that you can push that button a million times and it will look exactly the same and sound exactly the same and all that. It's really robust. Anyway, we are getting to the nice stretch of road, and I'm just going to stretch the leg a little bit on the engine. The next video on this will hopefully be on the sun tester, and that is going to be a lot of fun. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next one.